Okay. Are there still people coming in? Hi, everyone. I'm Yannis. I work at Glassbox Technologies as Senior Lead Engineer. And I'll be showing you our real-time and virtual production tools, DragonFly and BeeHive, and tell you what they can do for you with your Unity workflows and also Maya workflows. So, who are we? We're a nice blend of people from game engine technology, so people making games before, as well as VFX and film people. And we also have a few machine learning people, actually. We were founded 3 years ago in Los Angeles, and since then we kind of expanded all over the globe. We have an office in Germany, in Australia, and also in Taiwan now. And as I said before, we're making virtual production software, and mainly in the form of plugins. So you can actually just like plug and play it into Unity and Maya. And we also do pipeline consultancy for your projects. Right now, we're also in the process of building up some virtual production stages in Asia to hire them out. So that is also coming soon. So what actual problems are we trying to address here? The 4 big things that DragonFly and BeeHive are trying to address are essentially just like problems that real-time is introducing. So real-time basically removes the bottleneck of rendering, right? But it also comes with a whole slew of new problems because things are going just much, much quicker right now. So in a real-time production, you probably can generate assets and motion capture data and virtual camera data much quicker than you can actually properly track it, then your crew can actually go and take notes. So we are trying to take care of that for you. Also, there are still some parts of real-time that are relatively slow in the iteration pipeline. For example, importing and exporting and figuring out the actual pipeline of getting assets back out of engine or into engine can be really relatively hard to nail down, and we're also trying to address that. And that also segues nicely into the problem that there are actually like dozens of different file formats that you need to worry about, and that can cause an environment where people in virtual productions are becoming more like file type wranglers than just like people who actually worry about the content of what you're actually doing and the creative process. And of course, the last point is real-time and game engine is relatively new for film. And there are not a lot of people out there who are really comfortable with using like Unity as opposed, for example, to Maya. And what we're doing at Glassbox essentially is we're building all of our tools cross-platform. So if you're getting DragonFly or BeeHive, you will have it for Maya and Unity. It's the same UI, same process, same workflow, same API. So you'll be able to do all the same things that you can do in Maya and Unity, and it's just a one-to-one translation. So anyone transitioning from Maya into game engine has a much easier time working with these tools. So what actually is DragonFly? It's out now. It's our virtual camera solution, and it's really meant for really rapid iteration. We built it together with actual other film studios, and it's really designed to work on any scale. So for this talk, I'll be showing off using the iPad as the tracking device together with an game vice controller, but you can use it at a motion capture stage, as you can see here on this picture of the DragonFly viewport on like in an OptiTrack motion capture stage being used to shoot one of our R&D projects here. BeeHive, on the other hand, is really our real-time versioning, multi-user, multi-location, real-time collaboration toolset. And that is quite a mouthful, but it kind of boils down to it being the Google Docs of virtual production or real-time, because it really allows you to have a scaling system, work with multiple people on multiple machines on different locations at the same project at the same time, and sync everything up instantly without you needing to worry about it. So for this demo, I'll be showing off the Green Wedding, which was one of our R&D projects that we did. The story is basically a wedding where it turns out that the groom is actually an alien and things go haywire. Shooting this, we did with 4 actors in motion capture suits and facial performance capture into Motion Builder and then directly into Unity. And on the bottom left, you can actually see someone using the DragonFly virtual camera to kind of make a new edit of the project, and we can do like one edit very quickly from like nodes to the actual edit in like 3 hours with DragonFly very quickly. Yeah, so let's jump right into demos. So I'll be showing off now how to kind of get DragonFly and BeeHive up and running and how to rapidly iterate with that. And I have Johannes with me here, who is our project manager at Glassbox, and he'll be taking the iPad. So also for the iPad, we have an iOS application, of course, that you can download from the App Store, so it's also very easy to set up. So over here, I have the Green Wedding project, and I have nothing installed on this. This is just vanilla Unity, and I'll show you quickly just how easy it is to get from vanilla Unity and your project to just like using our tools. They will be downloaded as Unity packages, so all you really need to do is just to double-click them and import them, and then Unity does a bit of like compiling, and then you have DragonFly up and running. So you can see that the DragonFly tab just pop up here. You have access to our features here. And for BeeHive, it's exactly the same thing. Quickly waiting for that to finish. And there's BeeHive. So same thing. This is just like the entire process of getting like you ready for virtual camera and also collaborating with BeeHive. For this talk, I'm also using this little router here to kind of create my own Wi-Fi network, and Johannes will be connecting to my DragonFly server in a little bit. I'm quickly swapping to my layout here that I've prepared for this talk. So what you see here on the left side is actually our setup window that you can use, and you can kind of switch here between like OptiTrack, motion capture, and the ARKit app. And all you need to do to hook Johannes in is just click Start Server here. And now there's like a server, and he can just hook in. The viewport that you're seeing right now is our custom virtual camera viewport. And you get all the typical stuff that you would expect, like focal length, f-stops, focus distance, your time code, the current sensor that you're using, and also your scale. You can see Johannes flying around already. The plugin comes with pre-bound controls to the GameWise controller. So you can just like plug it in and fly around right away and navigate your virtual environment. I have these sequence controls here that I can use to kind of select my master sequence and then just like start scrubbing the animation sequence. And what we will do now is just look for a quick, nice shot that we can do here. You can see the best man fighting with a friend of the wife who claims that these guys are actually aliens. And what I'll be doing now is go to the operator main menu. And this basically contains all of our tools that we built and validated in our productions. And you can see here Johannes is currently on a scale of 6, meaning that his movements in the real world translate 6 times to the virtual world, meaning that they said like 6 times accelerated. And let's move into a nice position now. And I'm quickly going to create a snapshot here. Snapshots are essentially our way of doing bookmarks. They do not only bookmark position, but they also bookmark the frame of the master sequence and what master sequence you were using, as well as all your camera settings. So the 50mm lens that we're using is now bookmarked by the snapshot. And I can just like start rolling. So let's do that quickly. And there we go. He's actually an alien. So that's nice. So if you want to do like another shot of that and to create a new version of it, we can of course just hit go to snapshot and restore the settings, and we're back at where we were. And now I can of course go in here and like maybe change to like a more narrow lens, 85mm, and do the same thing all over. There they go. Okay, nice. Since the lens was a bit narrower and Johannes didn't have a very steady hand, it was a bit jittery, but we can of course fix all of that in our review tab here. So here you can see the 2 shots that we did, and I can just click review, and Johannes is able to see on his iPad as well what we're reviewing right now. So I can quickly scrub through that and play that back and look what he did. And yeah, it's in fact kind of jittery, but we can fix all that with our fully non-destructive smoothing features in here. Our general philosophy at Glassbox is that we make everything non-destructive, so you can always go back to where you were originally, because in real time, like if your director realizes that he can do changes in real time, he will want to do changes in real time, and that can of course create a lot of problems for your crew. But we got you covered. Like we make everything non-destructive, and BeeHive has some very, very nice version control features and asset tracking features for that as well. I'll be going into that shortly. So now if we play that back, it's now buttery smooth, no more jitter in here. So that's great. So yeah, you get all the features that you would expect from a virtual camera from DragonFly and more. But we only got like the cinematography covered right now. We actually haven't done anything to manage our Unity project, and that can also be a big task. So in order to do that, we have BeeHive, and I quickly change the layout again here to like the BeeHive menu as well. So this is the only window that you get right now with BeeHive. It's very simple. Actually, that was a lie. At the bottom right is also the transaction history, but I will explain that later. BeeHive is really meant to be like a live version control and collaboration toolset. It synchronizes your entire Unity project and Maya projects across machines, and you can collaborate on a Unity project with Maya. You can just open up Maya and work in the scene, and you can see the edits happening in the scene as you do them. I will also show that later. So starting out here, to synchronize the scene here, I just need to right-click, synchronize the database, and then you see a little progress bar, and that was it. You're now fully version controlled, and everything is tracked. So if I go in here and make like modifications to the scene, for example, move this umbrella, you can see at the bottom right here that actually like a transaction of that umbrella popped up. So if we're looking now for another nice shot of like maybe the bride with the groom and him turning out to be an alien, I'm leaving the review mode and going back into like operating. And here's the point where he kind of transitions into an alien. So Johannes, he's already in position. Nice. I create a snapshot again, and let's do a quick shot of that. And I can now say, hey, this looks kind of bland because like the background is not very interesting. So maybe let's play around with that a bit. So I can go back into like the scene view here, enter the scene, and just start modifying the scene. I can do anything I like to the scene. Specifically, what I've planned here is I prepared an asset from the asset store that you can, of course, just also bring in. You can bring in any new asset you like and just put them into your scene. And I'll try now to put like a lighthouse in the background here. It's still a bit too close. Let's move it further out. Still pretty big. Yeah, maybe let's go to like a wider lens again, 30 mil. Yeah, that could be like a nice framing. And let's do that. So the problem that you've created now for yourself is probably you have modified your asset. And what you could do in theory is you could copy the scene file and create like multiple versions of the same file, but that is quite a tedious workflow, and we remove that completely. So we've done the recording now, and what you would expect now, because we haven't baked or rendered anything, right? If you go back to the recording we did earlier, that the lighthouse will be there in the other shot that we did too, but that's not the case with BeeHive and DragonFly. So going into review here, looking at the old shot, you can see there's no lighthouse in here. And if I go to the scene here as well, you can see that there's no lighthouse in here. But if I review the other shot, it will actually load the version of the scene where the lighthouse is in. So that's really powerful. So to recap a little bit, DragonFly is really the tool that you want for like rapid iteration. It's plug and play, it's consistent across platforms. It works on any hardware from the high end and to the low end. We have a great API that you can use to kind of even implement your own tracking devices if you want to use like, for example, Vive trackers or something like that. And out of the box, it works with the standard and HDR render pipeline of Unity. Whereas BeeHive provides you with like real-time version control and asset tracking. Again, a fully non-destructive workflow, and you can reset your project to any point in time prior to initialization, or not prior to initialization, actually up to initialization, sorry. And it really tracks every step of the way. Like every action you do and any action that anyone does to your project, it will always be in version control. And of course, our tools interoperate. So if you have DragonFly and BeeHive in the same project together, you can also get shot tracking and more collaboration features. Speaking of collaboration, BeeHive is really like a scaling product. It's designed to not only make like one instance of Unity better, it's designed to make really like a cluster of people working together better. And we do this by basically networking BeeHive and linking your projects up with one another. So I have Johannes sitting down there with another laptop. And shortly, I will just show you how to open up a BeeHive server in the project here. So going back into the BeeHive window, I can just start a server and tell Johannes my IP, which hasn't changed. So it's still 8163. And he can just join my scene by just logging into the server over our Wi-Fi. And what happens then is that all of our assets, the entire scene, everything that Johannes needs to work with me here, gets synchronized across. And Johannes can also change the frame of the master sequence, playback, and do anything that I want him to do. So over there, you can already see his avatar flying around. And if I leave review mode of that shot, we can actually see what he's doing. Johannes can now grab in here, and you can see a selection in Unity popping up there, and you can just select objects and remove them or move them around. He can bring in new assets. He can do anything to the scene that we want him to. And the nice thing about it is that he can start out with an empty Unity project. It's completely fine. He just needs an empty Unity project in BeeHive, and he's set up to work with me on this project. We've tried this already also remotely, because it's not only designed to be in the same place. It should also work when Johannes is back at home in Germany to help me with my Unity project. And we've done this already with 8 people in VR from Germany to LA, and it worked fine. So that's pretty cool. So I can now make actual creative decisions without needing to know anything about Unity. So I can say, hey, Johannes, why don't you just, so that decision that I made about the ocean being kind of the backdrop, I don't like it anymore. So maybe we can change that to mountains. And Johannes can now then frantically search on the asset store or something to find assets that he can actually bring into that scene and modify the scene accordingly. There's him bringing in new assets, and I can, of course, also taking stuff that he brought in, for example, this tree, and just modify it in any way I like, so I can kind of make the placement a bit weirder. And I can also go say, hey, Johannes, the mountains are great, I like them, but also it's a wedding, and we're missing a church, so maybe you can also bring in a church. So why not? Because you can make those requests now, because we're real time, we want to go quick and want to make creative decisions quickly. So there we have a little church, or at least the front of it. And Johannes will probably rotate that. Yeah, nice. That's great. So that's cool. And I can also, of course, go in here, take the church, and modify it in any way I would like. So I can just adjust the placement a little bit. And we can really work together here. And so we can also take a look now how it looks in our master sequence. So Johannes, can you play back the master sequence for me to kind of see how the church interacts with the spaceship that comes up and picks up the aliens and all that? So yeah, that's cool. Yeah, the positioning is nice. And maybe let's scrub a bit ahead. And yeah, okay, the church is actually flying up into the spaceship, so they take it with them. So that's cool. And of course, I can change my mind again. I can say, hey, Johannes, all the work you did just now, I don't feel so well about it. Maybe let's just go back and change everything back to how it was originally. And using our transaction history, Johannes can actually do that with just single click of a button. And there we go. We're back at our original scene. Nothing lost. It's all still there. And you can still see here, this is the transaction history of all the actions that we did for the scene. And you can see Johannes just changed 193 objects. But I can say, hey, I changed my mind again. Let's go back again. And it's just one click away. Or wasn't it? Something went wrong, but that's fine. Johannes can, of course, also run DragonFly on his machine. So he can also open up a server. So I can quickly just hop in here and in the setup and just stop my server, and he can open one up. And I can also join with the iPad. So I can bring up the app again and join Johannes' DragonFly server. And immediately on my side here, you can also see another collaboration feature that we've up and running here, which is you can actually see the DragonFly virtual camera flying around in my viewport. So even if Johannes is remotely at home and trying to make some shots, you can actually see people working with DragonFly on your machine. So that's great as well. Yeah, so let's do a quick recap here. We have like really transparent live collaboration with BeeHive. It's great for location scouting, asset reviews, and of course it's multi-location, so you can really be anywhere you want. It works over Wi-Fi, over the internet, so it's all cool. But some things we miss right now. BeeHive can actually do way more than just like collaborate, because it's not just a simple version control system that takes your files. It actually understands the data that you're working on. So BeeHive understands meshes, materials, animations, scenes, and all that. And therefore, it has some very powerful other features, because it can actually reason about meshes and materials. And a Unity mesh for BeeHive is something that it can immediately translate to Maya. And therefore, you can actually join a BeeHive project from Maya and just work in Maya and review animations. So I also got something prepared to show that off. But first, so your traditional workflow usually would be that you have like a Maya artist preparing assets in Maya, and then you have a Maya file, right? And that gets checked into source control because you don't want to lose that. And then your game engine TD will probably take the Maya file and figure out a good way of getting that into Unity, probably through FBX or Limbic. And then in Unity, once your project is prepared, it will probably get checked into source control again. And then on the actual production, you have your technician working in Unity. And then you still need to find out that entire process of how you're going to work in Unity, how you're going to do version control during your process. During the process of actually working in your production live, and then also figure out how to get out of engine again. And BeeHive becomes like kind of a data hub of all that, because you can start out with Maya and BeeHive and just build up your project, then just switch over to Unity and continue working in Unity, or at the same time, you can have someone figuring out how the meshes should look in Maya, while someone else in Unity is like preparing materials, making them look nice in engine, doing all the lighting in engine. And then on your actual production, you do everything in Unity. And once you want to go back to Maya with all your animations and virtual cameras and everything, you can just open up Maya and it will just work. So here I have a side-by-side view of how that looks like. So of course, with BeeHive in Maya, you of course also get like the sequence scrubbing features. We actually hooked up to the Maya timeline there as well, so you can just play back your animation. So you can do all that. You also get the avatars flying around. And of course, also specifically for Maya, like mesh editing, so you can just like bring in like a new mesh and just like work on it. And people in Unity see that right away at the same time. So someone just brought in like a new box and trying to kind of expand a bit on the building over here. And you see that pop that right in, and someone else on the other side on Unity can just grab that mesh and work on it and move it around to the correct place and apply materials and all that good stuff. So that's cool. Of course, it works the other way around. So you can also, of course, like take stuff in Unity, scale it, move it around. Everything you can do in Unity will translate to Maya. So like all your transforms, if you bring in new assets, they will get serialized to Maya and immediately pop up. And of course, this also applies to animation. So you can work on your animation curves in Maya, but also, of course, you can use the animation editor in Unity to work on your animation assets as well. So summarizing that up a bit again, we really care about like kind of removing worrying about exporting and importing and asset round tripping and all that stuff. So you can go back to content, not files. And you can edit your Unity project live with Maya. You can edit your Maya project live with Unity. It's not a problem. And again, BeeHive supports the standard and HDR render pipeline out of the box. This material will translate beautifully to Maya. If you create your own custom shaders and you pick the right names for texture parameters, it will look hopefully appropriate. But of course, if you do your own crazy thing, we cannot magically translate everything from Unity to Maya and the other way around. But again, we are being fully non-destructive, meaning that, for example, if you create a really complex Maya rig with like lots of constraints and everything, and you work like 10 hours on that, or however long, I don't know, I don't do Maya. And getting that into Unity, of course, all the constraints will not work. But we will bake that down for you, and we will preserve all your Maya constraints. So if you open that asset up back in Maya, you will actually have all your constraints preserved. Because, again, we really need to be non-destructive, keep all your data, and handle that really carefully, because we don't want to destroy your projects. So again, DragonFly is really the tool you want for rapid iteration. It's out now. It's on our website. Really designed for rapid iteration, visualization, scouting, reviewing, streaming. Again, on any scale, so you can do it on the plane in setup like this. So just take your iPad and your laptop and get going. It's really meant to be fully customizable and extendable, so you can, in theory, replicate this traditional setup of like your focus puller and your camera operator by just plugging in another USB device and hooking that up. You can create your own Unity functions in C# and just bind them to buttons on the GameVice controllers or on any USB controller again, and just trigger them. We handle all of that for you. And again, it's cross-platform. You can do all of that as well in Maya. BeeHive, on the other hand, is really meant for live version control, so keeping all your data safe while making things go quicker. So with like collaboration, so if I want someone else to just hook into the project, you can see I had just Johannes, just drop in and it works. And again, like getting you back to be asset-centric, not file-centric. And yeah, multi-location and cross-platform as well. And BeeHive is in public beta right now. So if you want to check it out, go to that link and feel free to try it yourself. Okay, last thing. Sorry? Oh, sorry, yeah, of course. People taking pictures. All good? I see someone there. And over there. Okay. Nice. Yeah, like please check it out. I think it's great, but I also worked 3 years on that, so. So this is our website. You can also check that out. And if you want to have more in-depth demo with me and talk to me, you can meet me at booth 2 in the garage. So just stop by if you have any other questions. If there's something else you would like to see, I can show you that. And if you have any questions, I still have 14 minutes and 40 seconds to answer any of your questions.
I have like 2 questions. The first one, when you're collaborating with a person, I noticed that it will highlight the element and show a color to let you know someone else is manipulating. But we're stupid as humans, right? I'm pretty sure somebody will try to grab that same object at the same time. How do you resolve that?
Yeah. So the question is, we saw the selection highlighting, but how do we actually resolve like people trying to grab the same object and work on the same object? Actually, right now we don't. We don't keep people from doing that. I know that that can happen, but BeeHive actually resolves like conflicts like that fairly easily. And for like more assets like meshes, we can actually also introduce like a locking mechanism where someone locks the asset and just and only is able to work on that single asset. But for scenes, we actually haven't found any big problems with people collaborating because it's like instance, and we also like visualize it very clearly. So if anyone knows this means someone has it selected and is probably working on it, then maybe you should ask. So this is more of our policy there. And if anything bad happens, you can always revert back.
The second question is, when you work in that collaboration between Maya and Unity, it's very impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can start with an empty Maya. You just need our plugin, and you click connect, and then your scene will load.
So everything from Unity will transport to Maya.
Yes.
And vice versa.
Yeah. Okay. The question was again to repeat it for the video is how does the collaboration with Maya work? Do you need to start with like a fully loaded project or not? And the answer is you can just start out empty if you're joining a project always. like all the meshes and textures and materials are all, and the entire scene and your animations are serialized basically into BeeHive, and BeeHive knows how to kind of make them into Maya meshes and Maya materials and Maya animations. And that's kind of how we can go like from Maya into BeeHive and out of BeeHive, and from Unity into BeeHive and out of BeeHive. Yes? Right now, so the question was, do we have like area locking for scenes? And the question is, right now, we don't have a tool like that. But if you really want it, you can talk to me and I can make it happen. Over there? In the
One of the things I bought the product about a week ago.
Great.
So I bought this DragonFly. Now, one of the things I immediately started experimenting with was an iPhone and an Osmo mobile. And I got incredible results off of this. But then it came to like, well, I mean, there's no way to kind of hook it up with the mobile and the Osmo kind of, control it, whatever buttons. Has anybody tried this before?
So the question is if we have tried the Osmo controllers for an iPhone yet, right? We haven't tried them yet, but if you have any trouble with them, you can also stop by by our booth, and we can probably find a way to resolve that. Like Unity has our app is also built in Unity, and Unity has some nice support for also mobile controllers. So I think we can surely work that out.
Second question is, second thing I ran into, I would have loved to export USB cameras rather than FBX cameras.
USD. So the question is whether we can export USD right now from DragonFly, and right now we can't. All I can say, we've been talking about that internally, and but if you bug us a lot with like support emails asking for USD support, I'm sure it will happen too. I think there was a question also over there. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, what was the question about the history? Yeah, so if you can export the history, basically. So you cannot directly export the entire history. Like, I mean, you can, like, what we can do is, for example, generate like an XML file of like the changes that happen in the scene. That's certainly possible, but one thing, like one easy way of getting it out, you could, for example, like just check out specific versions of the project that you want to get, and then just like kind of copy them out, because like BeeHive will, of course, like create like a full Unity project, for example, and then you can just like save that, depending on what you exactly need. There's also a question over there. The question was whether we support Unity terrains to kind of get them into Maya, and actually we do. We found a way of like kind of just taking a Unity terrain and turning it into like a Maya mesh and updating that. The other question was if you're using a procedural tree generator, if that also will translate. And yeah, that will basically get baked down into like a mesh. And then if you update the procedural tree in Unity, then it will get baked down again and put into Maya. That's basically how that flow works. But if you edit it in Maya, or if you want to edit the tree then in Maya, you have the choice of basically turning it into like a normal mesh and kind of remove the procedural tree part of it. Or just not modify it in Maya and leave it a procedural tree in Unity. Any other questions? Right in the back. The question is how many people can work together in Unity. Right now, we haven't put a limit on that actually. It's what your network bandwidth supports. You can in theory go up to 30 people, but I think there are limits within reason, just like how many people you actually would want to work on the same project together. So I would probably recommend not going over 15. More questions? You mean supporting games? Yeah. The question is whether we also support game development with BeeHive, and the answer is I'm actually my background is also in game development, and I'm very passionate about games, and I think BeeHive is also a great tool to work on games. So you can for sure also just work on game content, because we fully hook into also the Unity serialized property system. So if you create custom scripts, for example, all your custom scripts will also translate over to the other project, and all the properties and the entire setup will also work across. Yes?
Might be a mean question, but is there any part of your source control system that isn't covered by the industry standard?
Can BeeHive completely replace the current industry source control solutions? That's an interesting question. I mean, I think it works very different. It provides, I think our value proposition is a bit different, because BeeHive is really designed to kind of enhance the real-time workflow of shooting and everything, and not having someone who's dedicated to just making sure that the version control is absolutely right. You can be 3 people with BeeHive and work on your project, and you do not even worry about version control. That's kind of the idea more. And I think so in that sense, our value proposition is a little bit different. But I think you can certainly replace version control with that. Though if you would like to check in specific versions of your project as a Unity project, for example, into version control, you can of course just enhance BeeHive with a traditional system where you have to say okay, we're doing dailies of our project just with an automatic script into SVN or whatever. Then that will fully work. So you can also use it just to kind of build up your pipeline that you already have. And I think it can be very useful for that as well, especially when you want to collaborate live. And I think that's also a big part of it. Also, one thing I forgot to mention is we're also hiring. So if you want to work on BeeHive or DragonFly, you can also talk to me. Anything else? Okay. Is there a maximum geographic distance that BeeHive works at? I guess it depends on your connection. Again, your networking conditions are, of course, important. We have tried Germany to LA. I think that's almost half the globe. That's almost as far as you can get. Maybe we can also just try a session next time with our developers in Taiwan and Australia and Germany and LA together. But it should work. BeeHive we've been doing a fair amount of work to really ensure that all the data gets across and that you don't get any corruption. And soon we might be actually implementing a proxy system where you don't need to wait for a texture to be fully loaded, but we just load in a proxy, and then you can just see your work in your scene already while not having all the big chunks of data in yet. So. If the proxy system is working now, right now we're not rolling it out. It's just currently in research.
Your organization is a developer organization focused on live, right? Review all those things. How about offline? If people, for example, host cannot be online, and still modify the project later on, synchronize the server, and people will log in to see.
The question was regarding working offline with BeeHive. Right now, BeeHive is not designed to be an offline system. So in theory, you would always need to be able to connect to the server, but anyone can be a server. So that's kind of the plus. So if you're in a location where you don't have internet access, you can just take a laptop like I did here, use that as a server, and it'll be fine. But if you have a BeeHive repository right now, and you want to like kind of hook in or just like work offline on it. Right now, we do not support that, but this is something that will be coming soon. Once we also work more on like the asset blocking features, because in order to work offline, for example, like one problem that we're still trying to figure out the best way is like if you're branching, for example, of a mesh, how does a merge, kind of like a traditional merge of like a mesh would look like, is not easy to figure out, and so therefore we need to be really careful of how we handle that. Okay, anything else? If not, thank you for listening to me.